Okay, Reyno, ons het so 102 mense hierso. Ons gaan nou live op YouTube.
Okay.
Okay, people, let's do this. Okay, we are live now. Reyno, welcome back. This is the third part of our series Freedom Under Attack. And in this part, we're actually going to talk about the judgment now. So there's a lot that's happened over the past few months, probably half a year really, if you look at the first cases that have come out. But how are you doing? How's Reyno De Beer doing?
No, thank you very much, Des. It's always good to be back on your channel. I've been surviving, me and my family, so that's the only way that we can go through this whole process. We need to stay calm and focused. And at the end of the day, we are doing this not only for our own liberation, but especially for our children. That's what we've been saying all the time. But thanks a lot for inviting me again. Really appreciate it.
Okay, Reyno, the first thing I want to tell the people is that we need all your support. I mean, Reyno needs your support, the Liberty Fighters Network needs your support, because I do believe that this court case, even although the judgment was only handed down today, and I think this is the crux, has actually had an influence on what the government did with regards to the lockdown regulations. And maybe you can touch on that. I'm going to give you the floor to speak about the judgment, because we don't want to waste too much of the people's time. It is a Friday evening. But this is obviously something that's very important and far-reaching for the country into the future. And then the actions that you will be taking based on this judgment that was handed down today.
Yeah, well, the hearing was on the 12th of January. And today is the 19th of February, so it took longer than a month for the judge to make up his mind. Last time with the Section 18.3 application, we waited for 2 months. And in this time, you could see that that while we were waiting for the judgment, and specifically indicated in the judgment for those who have read it, one would see that the judge basically, in not so many words, but he basically said that thanks to this case, the minister have in any event taken demeasured the restrictions.
I think he made that very clear, actually. Just so everyone knows, I read through the entire judgment. It took me about half an hour, but I can validate what Reyno has said, and I will actually go through the judgment in a separate video in detail for the people. But it's clear that government, not just with this case, and what I'm trying to tell the people is that what you're doing is making a difference. And people need to understand that. It's not in vain. It's actually making a difference to their lives.
Yeah. Now, we also see it in that way, and we actually feel very much flattered that the judge have made this judgment today in the way that he did, because when you read through the judgment, one will realize, and especially those who were in the courtroom that day, hearing the arguments that were placed, one would realize that the judge have excluded key arguments that we have placed before the court. And when you make key arguments and it's not put in a judgment, then you know you are making some impact which result, or where it thoroughly appears as if, as we've said in the letters that we wrote to Judge President Mlambo, in order to, when there was a dispute earlier regarding the judgment delivery, we eventually wrote to Mlambo to tell him, you know what, this is totally unacceptable. That everyone knew that our case was urgent, Last time it happened again that we had to wait for 2 months, and in that period, it seems as if the court was waiting for the government to react in order before it could render a judgment. And this is exactly what happened again. The court
I
waited.
agree with that, because in the judgment they actually say make certain statements, but it's because they took so long that it ended up the way that it did.
Exactly. So they thoroughly knew that in the way that the case was argued, that all these things would have happened, and the court gave the government from the backside the opportunity to rectify these things. Here I'm specifically talking, I'll go into the contempt of court just now, but when the court specifically said that the closure of the beaches and the closure of the places of worship were unconstitutional, but because the government took those measures on the 1st of February to reopen the beaches and to reopen the churches, the court or Judge Davis saw it as a matter that became moot, and that it was unnecessary for him to make a judgment and to make an order on that specifically. And for those who were in court would remember that I specifically argued, and I've told him, that it is essential for him to make a specific order in respect of the constitutionality of the beach closures and the closing of places of worship, because we can, even if the court or even if the government takes us back or uplifts those the closures, I can go back, and it's for those opportunities when they want to, that we can then come in to say, the court already said that this is unconstitutional and you cannot do that. However, this is, now I just, if you quickly go into the contempt of court issue, this was the very, very interesting thing, and obviously the reason why we went to court. If it wasn't for the so-called short period that we gave the minister, which was, according to the court, only 2 days, where we disagree, because we warned way back in roughly, I think it was about the 19th or the 18th of December.
He did mention
we warned
that,
her that she was in contempt of court. So if it wasn't for the short period, apparently 2 days, that we gave the minister to supply her answering affidavit, he would most probably have ruled in our favor and made a ruling that she was in contempt of court. He used the words specifically that she had basically contemptuous behavior, and he ruled that that there was no appeal. The appeal did lapse. So we were 100% spot on that her appeal lapsed, and that those measures automatically from the 12th of October, those measures that were originally excluded from her leave application automatically came into force, and those were the beach closures. So he basically confirmed now that the beach closures is, in terms of the original court order, unconstitutional and invalid. He confirmed that the criminal prosecution of Disaster Management Act regulations is unconstitutional and invalid. He confirmed that the measures taken to prohibit The issues surrounding funerals, that's unconstitutional and invalid. And also the movement over borders, that's not specifically applicable at this stage because we've got open provincial borders. But he confirmed all those things. So we now know for sure that the court agrees with our argument that many of these things have already become unconstitutional and invalid. So it's merely a academic decision that the Supreme Court of Appeal must now make in connection with those measures. And it's going to be, we are waiting for the hearing date in the Supreme Court of Appeal. That is has been due for a very long time.
Yes.
By taking their time to adjudicate the condemnation application, which was launched on the 23rd of December. So the court is the Supreme Court of Appeal. We've put it straightforward in our answering affidavit before the Supreme Court of Appeal, and basically what Norman Davis confirmed in his judgment that it did lapse. There is no proper excuse given why they are late. It's merely an oversight, according to them, that they haven't lodged the appeal properly. But an oversight is not an excuse. You must have a proper excuse why you did what you did. And strangely, the minister again chose not to file a replying affidavit. So she was supposed to file a replying affidavit 2 weeks ago already in that matter. She failed, and I was told by the registrar of the Supreme Court of Appeal that that matter would have proceeded to the judges for consideration. However, we still have not received that judgment back. So the moment when that judgment comes back and it confirms what Davis have said, then the government is going to formally sit with a massive problem, because their whole appeal that they have lodged before the Supreme Court of Appeal will then be basically null and void. Their whole arguments have been concentrated in that direction. So all in all, we're going to push the registrar of the Supreme Court for that judgment, which is very much applicable and relevant. Yes, please ask me any questions that you've observed in the judgment and clarify this.
Yes, I think many of the people want to know about masks. Now, based on what I've read in the judgment, and this is not just based on the masks, the people would have to read it, and this is why I actually want to cover it with them, go through it and explain certain things to the people. It's not just the judge saying this and that must happen. A judge doesn't have a right to do that. He makes rulings based on the law, and he used many references to the Cape Town High Court case, where he said that even the wisdom of an elected official, although we don't really elect our officials, that the court cannot rule on that. It's the public that is basically electing a party that put idiots into power. This is basically what he was saying, which means, which validates the fact that I believe we need to change the entire governance system. And he also says that elected officials, that they don't have to act responsibly or in our best interest, because they have to use their best knowledge. So there's almost like a cop-out phrase that came from the ruling in the Cape Town High Court, and he used that, and I found that interesting. And people need to be aware of this, because it means that our court system does not work for us the way we want it to.
Yes. No, absolutely. I totally agree with you, Des. That court case that you are actually referring to is the ESO matter. Yes. Which was before the Supreme Court of Appeal on the 9th of November. A couple of weeks back, a week or two back, I did say on your channel that that ESO case might most probably bring massive problems for our current case as well.
Yes,
And
we
it
still
appears,
discussed that in last
yes,
week.
yeah. Remember that our arguments were heard by the court on the 12th of January, and that court case only came out on the 28th of January. So we were not in a position to have argued anything stipulated in that court case, and he utilized that from the back, from the rear. He utilized it basically to get many of our points off the charts. So what we and we did stipulate that ESO case is as if the arguments were put in such a way that they wanted it to be dismissed. They wanted to fail.
It was another fake. It was another fake case, like many of the others.
And I've indicated that when you and each and every one of those so-called appellants in that matter had direct links with the DA.
Yes, DA
People,
stooges, the lot of them.
Democratic Alliance is not our friend.
Yes.
Alan Wint have through and through showed to us and proved to us that he is merely an instrument of the New World Order.
100%.
He showed that and proved that to us. And now we were stuck in our arguments were totally different than those in the ESO case, but hence he relied on the fact that just because based on those arguments that the national state of disaster, etc., were valid. So our arguments that we have put before the court have totally been ignored. We challenged the extension of the national state of disaster from the 15th of December to the 15th of January. So what we did was that we specifically said that there is no disaster anymore. Specifically in terms of the definition. We know that we are spot on with that, and nowhere in this judgment, nowhere in the 33 pages have Justice Norman Davis mentioned anything about the definition. Because the definition is, if there is no disaster in terms of the definition in the Disaster Management Act, there cannot be a Disaster Management Act, national state of disaster, or even the regulations. That is the crux of the matter, and he bypassed that. So we know that there's some sort of influence playing around here, and as we have addressed in our letter to Mlambo just before the judgment came out, we said that we are having a concern as the people of South Africa that it appears as if the courts have become an extension arm of government,
yes,
where they were supposed to be independent.
Yeah.
But sorry, I'm getting off the point. You were asking about the mask wearing specifically.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking about mask wearing.
Let me clarify that. Our court order of the 2nd of June still remains applicable.
Yes.
This judgment did not affect the 2nd of June judgment at all. Instead, this judgment confirmed that, as I have said, that the minister did not have and still don't have an appeal which would have then, in normal circumstances, suspended the execution and operation of the 2nd of June judgment.
Yeah. And the judge made that clear. He made that very clear in his judgment.
He did.
Yeah.
And in that respect, we can already say, number one, our argument that we have put before the court and before the people all the time, that the prosecution, the criminal prosecution of these offences, alleged offences, has already been declared since the 12th of October formally, according to the government's own version. have been null and void, unconstitutional, and cannot be enforced. We are struggling with the fact of getting the information out to the when it comes to the mask wearing, Davis, once again, nothing of those it was, I think, the fourth or the fifth time that we appeared before Norman Davis, and each and every time when we were in court, we were in 3 occasions, physically in court, not virtual hearings, but on those occasions, he was totally against the mask-wearing narrative going into his court. The moment when he stepped on the bench, he immediately took off his mask and immediately told everyone, if you want to, please just take off the darn thing and get it over and done with. And now suddenly he's got this very sympathetic attitude towards mask wearing. He did not take into consideration mask wearing. There's no proof at all that mask wearing is protecting anyone from this so-called virus. There's no proof that it actually helps, because of the fact that people who are wearing these masks, 75%. There was a survey not too long ago, a couple of months back, where it was actually specifically stated that people who died because of COVID-19, 75% or something in that area, they were actually mask wearers, whereby about 11% of the people of mortalities amongst those people being surveyed were seldom or never used to wear the mask. We know that there are medical reasons why masks cannot be worn in many occasions, but the fact that a person cannot even request a medical certificate in terms of these infamous regulations to say that I'm exempted from wearing a mask because of medical conditions, and because of the privilege between a medical practitioner and the patient, you don't have to tell what the medical condition is. It's your right to keep that a secret. They only have to know that it's a medical condition that you're suffering from and that you are exempted from a certificate by way of a medical certificate. But unfortunately, that is not being provided for. So we are sitting with a total, and we've also specifically argued, and we've said that there is absolutely no proof as yet before any other that COVID-19 is in fact a new novel disease.
But the thing is,
And
no court is
obliged.
But the court won't rule on that, Reyno. No court is going to rule on that.
Yeah, and we were saying that we're talking about the claimed COVID-19 disease all the time, because it is still claimed. There is no proof whatsoever that this so-called virus that is giving people the so-called COVID-19 disease has ever been isolated. There's no proof. There's no medical evidence of that. And we have, while we were busy working on all these court cases of ours, we have specifically noted that the definition of COVID-19 has been changed by the disaster management regulations. It specifically refers to COVID-19 as the SARS-CoV-2 virus. You cannot say that the disease COVID-19 is the virus. That is specifically what the regulations definitions say it is. So in that respect of mask wearing, the judge even spoke about that the UNESCO declaration um, have no contemporary meaning to what is going on. And those of
Yeah,
you who
I saw that.
have studied the UNESCO Declaration, the UNESCO Declaration, Article 16 specifically say that you may not be forced by anyone to undergo any medical procedure or intervention. You must consent to that. So he took it upon himself to make a declaration, to basically say that the UNESCO declaration has got no meaning in these perspectives. So he actually, but we are going to, because of the fact that the whole set of disaster management regulations are currently being considered by the Supreme Court of Appeal in our matter. I doubt honestly whether we're going to take that part separately on an application for leave to appeal. I think what we're going to do is we will most probably push the Supreme Court of Appeal matter so that our matter, our appeal or the appeal of the minister can be heard as a matter of urgency. It has been long overdue that our argument have to be heard by the Supreme Court of Appeal in the way that we have formulated it, and not in the dysfunctional way that the senior counsel team in the ESO case conducted their arguments. It was totally pathetic,
Yeah.
really. This was a definite planned, staged court case that was going on. It wasn't a court case at all.
Like many of the others, there's been many others.
Oh yeah, no, there were many others, but there were no effort from the senior counsel team and these so-called students of Cape Town. They had two senior counsel representing them and giving their arguments. Where did they get the money? Where did they get the money? They did not come cheap, and they did not do it on a pro bono. These two senior counsel, they never went into the direction as they were supposed to. They were arguing in a way for the Supreme Court of Appeal to give the judgment as it did in that matter.
Yeah.
So, Desmond, I see that we've been busy for just over half an hour now, but I believe that we are very happy. If I must just summarize, we are happy with the outcome of the judgment. We believe that if it wasn't for the 2 days that we apparently granted to the minister to file her answer. But that was not the case, because even if we had a deadline of 2 days, she only in any case filed her answering affidavit, I think the day before the hearing. So it was, there were still sufficient time for her to do everything that she was supposed to. But leave it as it may, we are considering to take that aspect on back to court in any case on the normal roll there, because if you have committed an offence, you must stand trial for it, and that is what we want to show the people, that the minister cannot get away. And Norman Davis, the judge, he
opened that avenue.
Said, he opened that avenue, and he
as
said,
well as the beaches, as well as the churches.
There was an argument that there was apparently an oversight, but the fact is that we did warn her. We did warn her that she was contemptuous, and she still continued with the way that she was doing, and she eventually, on the 1st of February, opened up the beaches. So we were spot on with that argument. So we believe that we will most probably continue with that matter, but all the others we will then push before the Supreme Court of Appeal. But we are very much happy that the court finally, that was one of the dark areas grey areas that people were saying, but the 2nd of June order is worth absolutely nothing. But now, luckily, the court have basically confirmed that the operation of those aspects excluded from the original order have already come into operation since the 12th of October. So since the 12th of October, those excluded measures, those 6, it were 6 aspects, regulation specifically. But the most important one was the fact that the criminal prosecution has been declared as unconstitutional and invalid. Point. The National Prosecuting Authority will have absolutely no power whatsoever to criminally prosecute anyone for any offence in terms of the Disaster Management Act. So that is what we can now formally tell everyone. That's a good thing that came out of this judgment, and
Yeah, that's
let's
very
see what's
important.
going to happen.
That's very important.
Yes.
To me also, I want to make clear to the people that the judge had very harsh words for the beach closures and saying that it didn't meet the requirements of what the government says they are trying to do versus what it's actually achieving. He said clearly that if a beach only has 1 or 2 people walking on it and you have police guarding it, as he said, with machine guns and bazookas, then it's absolutely crazy, and that they would actually fire rubber bullets or tear gas at individuals. He also said that if families that live together go to the beach, they should be able to be together. There should be absolutely no problem with that. So those things are important, Reyno, and that is why I want to cover the entire judgment in a video with the people that are willing to sit through it. It's probably going to take an hour, but I think it's worthwhile doing that, so that the people can get a bit more detail into what the judge is talking about, the important parts. I won't go through all the legal jargon and so on, but the important points needs to be covered. And he obviously says that those things are moot and he cannot rule on it now because the beaches have been opened. And the people that think that the court case is not making a difference, it is. Because of the court case, the government physically did something about their regulations, and then the judgment comes subsequently. And this has happened now on numerous occasions, so there's a trend that's happening here. But I don't think any judge will ever rule on the validity of the disease or the virus or wearing a mask, whether it works or not. The judge is not going to rule on things like that. So, I think something like masks, to take it to court, it was like the hairdresser situation. If you don't bring the Constitution into it, then he's going to ignore it or avoid it. So one has to bring the right angle, I think, to actually make it work. And we know Judge Davis actually mentioned the hairdresser with regards to a taxi being filled with people, and this was also mentioned in this instance. Taxi full of people going to a funeral. At the funeral they have to get out, and now they have to socially distance. I think that was brilliantly put. The fact that was actually in the judgment, and he mentioned many things as well with regards to the complexity of the entire situation, and he actually touched on the legal system itself and the limitations of the legal system in 3 different paragraphs. He actually addressed the limitations of the legal system. And that I find fascinating, and I definitely want to talk about that in future. And maybe after we've had some discussions, we can discuss that and look at ways that you believe we can change the judicial system in future to rectify things like that. Because at the moment, the legal system is working for us to a degree. The lockdown regulations have been eased because of the court case. But we want more. We need more protection like that. We need it faster. So the current system is limiting. There was a lot of excuses in the judgment as to how the courts are limited with regards to our governance system and how they can only judge on how the law is being implemented.
Well, Al, I also see the judgment is that the Judgement is giving us also a lot of tips in strengthening our future arguments.
Yes.
Let me put
He
it
gives
this
a lot of
way.
advice. He gave a lot of advice, Reyno.
Yeah, so I'm not against Judge Norman Davis himself as a person. I'm against the way the judiciary at this stage is operating and assisting the government to push this COVID-19 narrative in the way it is. There is no leeway that the judicial system is giving to us to openly make an informed decision. And what we were saying is that it's not about protecting the other person. That is why you need to wear the mask. It is that we need to understand that it's not a one-way street. It goes both directions. Why must we, as the 98.6% of people against compulsory mask wearing, why must we make way for the 1.4% who feels that they are afraid of COVID-19 and the narrative that is being pushed out there? That's the problem that we have at this stage. The vast majority must bend before the small minority. That is what I'm against. I am saying that I will respect each to wear a mask and feel that COVID-19 is really a disease, and many of your followers lost people or COVID-19. So I respect each and every one. I have sympathize with the deaf members, but I am just saying that people, if they were not killed by way of COVID-19, something else was the concern or was the result. And you are not allowed to have a autopsy on those cases. They must immediately be buried as quickly as possible. That is the problem. There is no leeway to challenge this COVID-19. They close the doors all around us for doing it. And I would like those other people, the 1.4% of those who are afraid, why don't you stay at home? Lock yourself behind your doors, get yourself a bubble. And because that is, you want to create your bubble and you want to put all of us in there. There is no way in hell that I will bend through this. I will not bow to this oppression. I will, as long as I can, I will totally oppose all these measures that are being put in front of us. I will go out against the vaccines. I will go out and tell people, stop testing yourselves. If you will not get COVID or you will not become a COVID-19 case, that is the reality. So, yeah, and just for a final point, there's, this week, there's a surprise coming. Unfortunately, we cannot announce it at this stage, but probably by around Wednesday, Wednesday or just before Wednesday, probably Tuesday, we will make a very nice announcement that everyone will love. But there's something to look out for, and it's something very much exciting our way, and let's deal with that in this week. I'm looking forward to this coming week, and I would like each and every one of your followers who have listened and to this interview, that people, the judgment is it was in the way it is for a reason. Uh, be patient. We are moving towards the end of the tunnel. There is light. We must just persevere and ultimately believe in God that He is going to pull us through this, and we will come out victorious on the other side. I'm sure of it. We must just have faith. That's all.
Oh, I agree, Reyno. The main thing is that, and throughout my meetings, which are just growing across the country, it's clear that people see that if we organize and we inform ourselves, which is what this live stream is about, is the people being informed, and we weaponize ourselves with information. There's a lot that we can do, because if you know what to use, and many people have used the Liberty Fighters Network printout at all of my meetings, they are handed out, Reyno, and people use them at traffic stops and so on, and when they reason with the police, they allow them to go through. So it's made a difference in many people's lives. I can testify to that, and so we do need a legal arm to actually take care of this, and this is why I want the people, all my supporters and followers, firstly to like this video so that the algorithms can show it to more people. This is why you need to actually go and like it. We've had 300 people being live streamed now for a long time. We have 120 likes. We can get that up to 300. That'll be great. And because we need more people to see this, we need more people to see the content in the videos. And thank you once again for coming on. But I want people to support the Liberty Fighters Network. The Liberty Fighters Network, they need financial support from you. Thank you to all of those of you that are donating to them in their work, and that's donating towards my tour. I know I've met with Reyno a couple of times. He's actually spoken at one of my meetings, and he is working actively on the ground non-stop. And this is what we need. We need more people doing that in whatever their passion is. And I mean, Reyno is passionate about justice. He hates injustice. And that is why I support him in this channel. Reyno will always be available for you. We're in the same fight together for liberty. And it's something we don't have right now. And as we know, they're going to close down more on our liberty. It's not going to become easier because this is an international fight. And most of the people on this channel understand this. And that is a great thing. But they need to contribute towards you. People, if all of you that are watching, if you can just contribute a 10 or 20 rand towards the Liberty Fighters Network, it'll make a huge difference. It's about small amounts in large numbers that makes it possible to do these things. Reyno doesn't drive around in a fancy car and live in a fancy house. He is fighting because he's passionate about this. I can tell you that for sure. So please support him and all the people that help him. And I want to thank all the people that have made it possible for you to go to the court cases, to travel there, or whatever it is that you need. And if there's anything you need, you can just let me know. We can do more interviews, not just on the court cases, but maybe we should start talking about the legal system, as I mentioned before. And people need to take an interest in that. I think that's very important.
No, that is definitely the case. The problem is that getting justice have become a luxury in South Africa. It has always been a luxury. And when you have a population where many of the people are still illiterate, they can't read or write, getting justice is basically impossible for them. They will never be able to go to even a law clinic to get help there, because the chances that the law clinic is already full to their capacity to assist other people in need is very, very good. So what we are going out, and that was the purpose of Liberty Fighters Network from the beginning when we started, is to empower the people who cannot afford getting a lawyer to become your own lawyer.
Yes.
Look at what I am doing. I am arguing these cases in person myself for Liberty Fighters Network as well. So it didn't come overnight. it was really a process of 27 years taking on the system and making myself familiar with the operation of the courts and everything that connects to it, to such extent that I am really a nemesis to many legal practitioners, because of the fact that I know so much about the legal system and the law, and I'm utilizing their own system that they have set in place against them, and they don't even know that in many circumstances. When I argue a case like in this latest matter, every time when I argue that case on behalf of Liberty Fighters Network, I open up a door to make the courts more accessible for any person out there. Remember that.
Yeah.
That is what I want to teach people. You don't have to have money to get a lawyer. You can, if you know the process and you start learning the curve, you will become your own best lawyer, and you will never in your life look back again to get advice from a legal practitioner. And the legal practitioners have, through this whole system of the lockdown, they have actually created a monster in the form of Liberty Fighters Network by doing what we are doing. They don't realize for one bit that every time, as I've said, that we are doing this in person without legal practitioners doing this. And people are being empowered, they see what I am doing, they see what we are doing, and they are going to do it themselves very soon. And that is killing the legal practitioner, the legal profession. I'm very glad about
Yeah,
that.
but that's becoming self-reliant, Reyno. It's part of the self-reliance process, and this is key to success in the country. Because at the end of the day, we need a completely new governance system, we need a new legal system. And I do want to finish up now, and I will do some live streams in future where we discuss these specific topics and put out a topic that we can discuss. Because people, they can defend themselves in court. I have, and I've done so successfully. So we can all train ourselves. We need to become citizens instead of subjects. And most people have become subjects in this country. We're subject to the legal system. We're subject to the government. Instead of being citizens, an active citizen knows the law, knows the Constitution, knows the Bill of Rights, and they use it. Because that is your right to do. And we disempower ourselves because of the pathetic school system that we have at the moment. And the thing is, we don't have an educated police either. I actually spoke to a policeman, Reyno, that said he studied the Constitution and the Bill of Rights when he was in police college. No retraining whatsoever. So these are the kinds of things that I want to talk about in future, and why we have the problems, and why the only solution is governance system change. We need to change the entire system.
Yes. No, I totally agree with that. And yes, there's quite a number of things that we are already busy with to break down that system. I'm not a fan of the legal fraternity in South Africa. I believe that they are probably the main cause of our freedoms being taken away from us. They are the ones who ultimately write the laws. They are the ones who are protecting the criminals at the end of the day, and then they have this so-called ethical code they belong to, which I actually say is an unethical code.
Yeah.
And they totally selling their lives to Satan. It's a farce through and through, whereby they are so attached to this legal fraternity of them, and they don't realize that it's not about the moment when they were studying for a legal practitioner. They wanted to do it because they wanted to serve justice. But the moment when you are incorporated into this fraternity, this legal fraternity, this legal profession, you become part of that, and you need to serve that fraternity and not justice. When they tell you that it's your opportunity now to lose this case or to collude with another attorney to reach a certain outcome, or to shake hands with a judge or whoever to reach a certain judgment. That is unfortunately how they operate. But that's another story. I can talk about that for ages. But thanks a lot, Desmond. I really appreciate your help, and I want to tell all our supporters out there, thank you very much for all your support. Those who have been given donations, really appreciate it. Every single cent goes a far way, and as Des also said, you are more than welcome to come to my home and see the car I'm driving. I'm not flashy. I'm not spending those monies on myself for luxuries. I take that money to survive and to put it back to what we are doing. That is the most important thing, that we need to continue with what we are doing, and we can only do that with your support, and thank you very much for everything. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Des.
Okay, Reyno, I want to thank you very much for everything that you're doing. And when we're back up in Gauteng for our next big meeting, then hopefully you will be available to address the crowd. And I'm sure it'll be a big crowd of people. Hopefully we'll be in a position then to actually get more people. And yes, thank you to everyone for supporting the tour that I've been doing. We are planning now our trip to the Eastern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal, and then we'll go to Gauteng again. So we will be up there soon, and Reyno will be able to see you again. But in the meantime, we are touring all over Cape Town. We are having meetings every single Saturday, and then many meetings during the week. So that is ongoing, and I know you having meetings as well, continuously. A lot of people don't see all the admin work that goes into what we're doing, and the time it takes for you to write press releases and everything else. And it's not a 9 to 5. I know you often go to bed in the early hours of the morning, so we know what it's like to slog it out, and we have to do it. At this stage, we have no choice for this country. And I want to tell the people out there, one thing that's very important is that we educate ourselves on what is happening, and the system that Reyno speaks about, and the fraternities and the various people that don't have your best interests at heart. And I don't think the government is any different to the legal fraternity. They all work together to earn a salary. They get indebted to the bank with bonds and with cars that they buy. And all of a sudden, it's not about a 5-year term anymore. They want a second term, and the councillors want to be in office forever. So it's a lot to fight for, and these people will do anything to do that. So the system has to change. Thank you very much, Reyno. People, have a great weekend. And I see Dr. Beata Setzer is here. Welcome, Dr. Setzer. I will be meeting with her in next week. There's a lot to discuss. There's many meetings that I have, and like I said, that Reyno has, that we don't discuss on social media. We are busy non-stop. And I want to thank the people that make that possible, because without your help, it's impossible for us to actually do what we're doing. And you will find the banking details for the Liberty Fighters Network in the description below this video. So please go and support Reyno. It's a 10 and 20 rands that make a difference. If it's in large numbers, it'll make a huge difference. So thank you very much for coming on. We've got 205 likes. If we can get that up to 250, it'll be great to just get this video shared. We need as many people as possible to see this, and please share the video on social media, on your Facebook pages, on your Instagram accounts, or wherever. Share the link so that people know what's happening out there in the courts. And the one thing I can say is the Liberty Fighters Network court cases has made an impact in our lives, and that's why they are different. Because the beaches were opened, the churches were opened, and those things came suddenly. You know, they were planning on doing it for much, much longer. But Easter is coming, Reyno, and as we know, Easter and Christmas was attacked. So
yes,
that's a story for another day. Have a good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming on.